Today we're going to make a project that looks kind of like this. It's a three-dimensional looking hand. Looks very complicated and exciting, but actually it's pretty easy to do. The materials you need for this project are a 9 by 12 piece of watercolor paper. You also will want some colored markers. I would say anywhere from 3 to 7 markers would be good, different colors. You're going to want a black permanent marker, I like Sharpies, and a pencil. The first step of this project is simply tracing your hand. We're going to put our hand coming up from the bottom of the page. I want to spread out my fingers really wide and trace right around my hand. Starting at the bottom, I'm going to trace up the side of my wrist, being sure to not move my hand that I'm tracing. I want to go kind of slow and carefully. I'm drawing my line nice and dark, but you only need to make a light line on your paper. We don't want the pencil to show up in the final copy, so draw lightly. Alright, trace all the way back down the other side of my wrist to the edge of the paper, and I have my handprint. Then you're going to choose to put something up here. It's your choice. You can do a heart, a star, a shape of some sort, maybe a flower. I did a water droplet, so I'm just going to stick with that. And then the first step to putting color on this paper or adding the marker is doing Sharpie. You always want to do the Sharpie first. The Sharpie is really what is going to make this look three-dimensional. So all we're going to do is start adding horizontal lines, lines that go across. Now I don't require you to use a ruler, but you do want to try to make the lines as straight as possible. I'm going to go across the paper, starting at the bottom, nice and straight, until I get to the side of the wrist, and then I'm going to stop. I'm going to skip over and make a dot on the other side that's about the same height. Now I'm going to connect this part to this part, but I don't want to go straight. I want to curve it up to make it look three-dimensional. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a curve over to this dot, and then I'm going to continue the line nice and straight across to the other side. I'll do that again, moving my marker up just a little bit, trying to keep the same amount of distance between the lines. I'm going to put a dot on the other side, and then I'm going to try to connect these two together, but keeping it curved, going up again. And then I'll continue on over here. I'll do that one more time so you can see. After you get the hang of it, you don't need to do the dots anymore. You can simply curve the line and continue on the other side. This is going to start to make the wrist look three-dimensional. I have one that has a little bit more done, so you can see what it starts to look like. Now the fingers are a little bit tricky. When you get to the fingers, you have to make more than one bump. So every hand is a little bit different. You go across and then stop at the finger, and I'll go across in a curved way to the other side. Now I have space in between this finger, so this still has to be straight, and then this will be curved again to over to this side. Straight line till I get to the next finger, and curved, and then straight across. Every hand is formed a little differently. You'll just have to use what works best for you. And you might end up with lines where this side's a little bit lower than the other side because of where my thumb is. That's okay. So I've got my pinky I'm working on. Now I'm getting to the individual fingers, and each one is going to have a curve. All right. I'm going to show you guys another step that's a little further along. After I get all the lines done, You want to make sure you also put three-dimensional lines on your object. Then comes the color. So here's one that has all the black lines. Color, pretty easy. You want to make sure that you're doing one color at a time, otherwise it takes forever. So I'm going to start with my raspberry color, and I'm going to go across, and if I did the lines about the thickness of my marker, it works really well. I might have to change it here a little bit, but I'm going to do all my raspberry color first. So I do one up here, and then maybe go down a little ways and do another raspberry. I'm not counting. If you want to make a specific pattern, and you can go, every 10 lines, you can do that. I'm not going to. I'm going to make kind of a random pattern. You want to make sure to color in the whole space all the way across. And I do several raspberry colors, and then I'd go back in and do a new color. And when you're finished, you have minimal white space. The example that I made has no white spaces at all. If your example has a couple of white, that's okay, but you want to try to get as much color as you can and make sure that you color in that three-dimensional object as well.